Okay, everyone, welcome to Charge Chat, the Alliance group down here in Australia, and to our international guests. And I hear we've got some people from Israel. So without further ado, I'll introduce our panellists tonight. We have Alex from EV Classic. If he wants to say a few words about what he does and where he is, Alex.
Hey, hi, Alex here, Bombay, New South Wales, and I can see we got quite a few international guys here. Good morning. I think it's Europe, so it's pretty early. Thanks for joining us. And yes, I think let's say hello to Simon.
Hi guys, my name's Simon. I'm from Palmerston North, New Zealand, and I work for a company called Zero Emission Vehicles. Our main focus is the heavier industrial vehicles, and we've put a lot of time and effort into particularly the software control of large, complicated multi-motor, multi-gearbox type of vehicles. So I'm definitely more of a technical guy, so I'm happy to answer some of the maybe hairy questions that anyone else can't answer. So yeah.
No worries. Good to have you on board, Simon. So just the usual housekeeping things to go through. Your mutes, you have all been muted to avoid background noise. Please use the chat button to say hello to like-minded people attending from around the world or wherever they may be. Use the Q&A to ask questions, which we will answer at the end of the presentation. This presentation has been recorded and will be posted to the Evolution YouTube channel tomorrow morning. A link for the recording and information about how to connect with the EV Alliance will be listed at the end. Enjoy. So this month, conversion questions are, what are the best vehicles to convert? So best vehicles for conversion. Are older vehicles better? I guess we should ask Alex first, and he does a lot of older vehicles. What would you think, Alex?
Yes, yeah. Easy questions for me. It's my background is German, so, and you can see probably that's where my passion goes to. And growing up with a classic combi, it's where definitely it's my passion on the old classic cars. For me, there are quite a few reasons I prefer more the old classic ones. Starting from the structure, from the weight, from the implementing of a system, which are for me way easier and way more feasible than starting with a more modern car, which, for example, has got CAN bus, where we probably need to integrate a few systems to the CAN bus. Yes, you can do this, but nevertheless, for me, it's easier. I like more the old classic one as well. There's probably a price factor in a way where I can see probably you spend a lot of money on the classic cars, and you want to have the cars or the conversions as well for a long time. And from my experience, I see more classic cars keep or stay alive longer than more modern cars with more plastic parts. It's
Definitely.
just a short thing for me.
Yeah, no, it's a great thing to do, to keep these old, beautiful vehicles on the road. Simon, I guess you're not really into the older stuff. What would you like?
I definitely am into the older stuff. I think the old stuff is very good for the EV conversions. The first thing that jumped into my mind is the easiest car to do an EV conversion on is one that somebody's already done one on before and you can copy. And also I would say that the larger the car, the more space you've got to fit things. I know it's kind of fun and that it makes sense to have a really little economical car, but trying to put all of the components into these cars, if they're very small to start with, can be a real challenge. And yeah, of course, I would say that the older cars, the simpler control systems, being able to have mechanical gauges and stuff that don't look out of place in an old vehicle, keep the control system simple, and it's a lot easier to do it on an older vehicle. I mean, like we said with the CAN bus before, I mean, it's possible, but not for one-offs.
No, definitely there, Simon. It's a lot of work sniffing CAN bus, as me and you know personally. Graeme, what's your thoughts on older vehicles versus new vehicles, pros and cons?
Yeah, look, I love them. I mean, the oldest vehicle we did was a Model T Ford. I've got a combi van in the workshop at the moment, ST90 Carry Ute. They're all old vehicles. The oldest one I'm doing myself is a Holden Cruise, about 2003, and it's just before all that CAN bus dribble came in, so you know we can sort of work with that. Put a Tesla motor into a 86 Suzuki Swift. Our own daily drivers are old 90 Swifts, you know. So yeah, we're definitely keen on the older cars. I think there's a Mazda RX-8 we're working on at the moment, and that's proven a little bit problematic with CAN bus to get everything to work properly.
Yes. So just people who aren't aware, Simon, can you explain what CAN bus is for our listeners, please?
Yeah, sure. So CAN bus was I guess, a communication architecture developed by Robert Bosch. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but it was a long time ago. And the main aim was to get rid of wires going everywhere in the vehicle. So instead of having analog or digital signals traveling down individual wires, you could put the information in a digital form on a CAN bus, which is basically two individual wires, and you can send essentially ones and zeros down the CAN bus and read it off at the other end. So the actual CAN bus, the CAN bus architecture hasn't changed much at all. It's extremely robust and very reliable, and only recently we see automotive manufacturers moving away from it. So I think Tesla and some of the other newer vehicles, especially that have high bandwidth requirements for heads-up display, kind of, you know, all the interactive things, they're starting to use more of a like an automotive Ethernet. I think that's what it is. I haven't really looked into that, but each manufacturer sort of has their own way of doing the signals on the CAN bus, though the protocols vary. Like the mechanical part of the actual nuts and bolts of the CAN bus is quite well defined, but of course manufacturers choose their own proprietary way of communicating across it. So heavy vehicles tend to be very similar, and also agricultural farm machinery, but when it gets into other vehicles, other manufacturers, you know, Toyota, Nissan, Mitsubishi, I'm pretty sure they have quite different protocols running on the CAN bus. So just because someone's figured out how to do the CAN bus for, you know, the gauges in some vehicle doesn't necessarily mean that it will swap over. So yeah, it's just a lot of work, and you definitely don't want to be paying to develop the software required to run CAN bus if it's just going to be for one vehicle. It's the type of thing that you do as a you know, a business venture, really.
Yes.
So even some of the conversions now, I mean, while we have the capacity to sniff the CAN bus and basically reverse engineer it, I'm kind of in favor of just ripping out the CAN bus stuff and putting our own CAN bus solution in, because it's just a lot easier.
Yeah, no, definitely. Sniffing CAN bus is quite fun. So let's move on. So Land Rover, pros and cons. Who would like to answer that one? Graeme, have you done a Land Rover?
It's
No,
probably.
I haven't. Look, I like the idea that it's all aluminium chassis, body shell. I think, I don't know, is it too heavy? Is it? I don't know, really. It's not one that I'd relish. I think you have to put a fairly big motor in these, sort of like the Land Cruisers, Land Rovers, and Nissan Patrols. I think going for something like 144 volt Hyper 9, even if you overvolt it, I'm a bit thinking it's probably a bit light on. Probably want something like a more substantial lock truck motor or something like that, you know. But that's just my opinion. I mean, we did a transit van, a long wheelbase high roof, and we really stretched the friendship on a Hyper 9. It did the job, but seriously only just, you know. So to make these things go properly, I personally believe we've got to start looking at larger motors and higher voltages.
Yeah, we have a solution for the new Land Rovers with the Tesla 450 horsepower mid-mounted drive with driving into the front and rear differential, which is quite lively. We've got one happening down in Melbourne at the moment, and got another one coming in. Alex, you were starting to say something about the Land Rover?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's another point. Probably what I really like on the old classic cars is that you have the space. It's not like a modern car where they're designed to use all millimeters of space of room to use it or to redesign the car. In the old ones, you got quite a few extra space to integrate a battery box, which makes it much more easier and lighter to work on these cars. Yes, I understand as well. I see as well Graeme coming from the more heavy vehicles like the Land Rover. This is in a way of where you need to go up to a high voltage to get the current, to get the power out onto the drivetrain. So this is already a bit more complicated, and as well it's a bit more involved to run a more heavy vehicles, especially as well in a Land Rover where you're considering, do you keep the four-wheel drive or not? And you know straight away, oh, these old cars, they got a really hard designed transmission, and where you lose already straight away a lot of your energy in the transfer case. So yes, you can do the four-wheel drives, but I'm personally not a big fan of the Land Rovers and keep the original drivetrain going.
Yeah,
yes.
I think you're right. And
So,
you know, 2,000 is about a limit for a Hyper 9, I feel. All right, moving on. The next one is the Mini, pros and cons. And anyone done a Mini or would like to comment?
I'd like to do one, but I haven't had the opportunity yet. I'd be inclined to detune a small drive unit out of a Tesla and put it in, which is what we're doing to a Suzuki Swift.
Probably.
Yeah, no, Graeme, we've
it's probably the same like.
Hang on, Alex, just hold fire for a second. Now, Graeme was just starting to say something about putting a Tesla drive into a Mini. I know Richard up at Classic Cars in Wales is doing one, so it's definitely on the cards. I know there's a few Nissan Leafs around that have had been repositioned and repurposed into Minis. Carry on, Graeme.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I'm just thinking from a purely mechanical point of view, the small drive unit is a good fit in front-wheel drive cars when it's easy enough to modify Tesla drive shafts to take the ends that you want. So for a front-wheel drive car, it's a good fit. It's not that big a motor. It'll fit under most bonnets, and I do believe it would fit in a Mini. But the 300 horsepower is probably a bit of overkill. So we started making limb slip diffs for the small drive units. to give it some traction. But I think even there, it would be 300 horsepower is too much. So using the driver board from the chappie in Ireland there, I believe we can detune that and turn it down and make it a more usable car. So that's the sort of tack I would personally take. I don't know. We've looked at, can you adapt the Hyper 9 to the gearbox? And oh my God, it just looks like such a mess that you just don't want to, you know. So
no, yeah. So we're the agents for Zero EV Tesla Hack commercial system, and the easiest way to detune a Tesla drive is just give it less volts. So we also do Quaife LSD differentials for small and large drives, and we do Quaife output shafts for Tesla drives, if anyone's asking. Apparently there's a Q&A question. I've just got to get it up here. Where are we? Oh yeah, so Gary Scott's saying, has anyone in the Southern Hemisphere used an Outlander motor setup? What I was hoping to use on my minis, so I can answer that too. So we're just about pretty close, probably within the next 6 months, for a commercial CAN bus hack for the 60 kilowatt Outlander motor, which would be quite nice in the Mini. Not in the Southern Hemisphere as far as I'm aware. Is anyone else aware of the PHEV Outlander motors being used as yet?
not me. No, I'd like to use one. I've got one sitting here.
Yeah, no, we'll have a commercial version soon. So, okay, so moving on. So we have a Jaguar. Anyone know what the weight of a Jaguar is, Simon? Do you know what the weight of one of those would roughly be?
Nah, a lot. But that doesn't mean that, you know, you wouldn't do a conversion on it. I think that'd be a cool conversion, actually. There'll be a lot of space in it, and it's not like you're going to be trying to drive it quickly. It's not a car that's made to go fast. So no, I reckon that'd be a good car for cruising around in with an electric kit.
Yeah, no, definitely.
If it's a V, I don't know much about Jags, but if it's a V12 one, you could probably have most of the batteries in the front where the engine was.
Yeah, I wonder if a large Tesla drive would have room, because they have a independent rear suspension. I wonder if you could make room. Okay, someone just answered that most of them are around 1,700 kilos with a vehicle, so they're not too bad at all.
Mm. Yeah, our Land Cruiser's 2.7.
And just to tell everyone, just the comparison, what's the horsepower and torque on that, Simon?
On what? On the Land Cruiser?
Yeah, the one.
It's the one that we've done at the moment. It's got an older TM4 motor. I think it's about 110 kilowatt peak and 85 or so continuous power. But if you put it in low range, I think we plan to talk about gearboxes at some point here, but if you put it in low range, it definitely boogies.
Yeah, no, definitely. Anyone else? Graeme, you want to comment on a Jag?
No, I don't know enough about them, but I sort of tend to agree a Tesla large rear motor would be probably ideal because of the way it's set up with their independent rear suspension. So if I was doing something like that, that's probably the tack I'd take. And then again, like was stated before, load up the front with the battery pack. Yeah,
maybe mock up a nice engine battery box looking thing would be quite tidy.
Right. Yeah.
Some of these Jags have inboard brakes, don't they? So maybe the rear subframe is a little bit weird in these things.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so up next, should you use the original gearbox, pros and cons? Alex, you want to answer that one first up? You there, Alex?
Yeah. You can hear me?
Yeah, just speak up a little bit louder.
Yeah. Okay. Pros and cons gearbox. It is. I would say depend on the conversion and the money you want to spend. I'm doing at the moment a combi with a e-drive or from an e-up engine, which includes which has a 50 kilowatts motor, including gearbox, and this is just a nice conversion. It's you don't need to rely on the old existing gearbox, and you don't need any more clutch, any more clutch cables, and which is really nice. But I must say as well, it comes with a price. So most of the conversions I still use the existing gearbox, and which is totally fine, which is good, and they're designed for these cars. For example, what I miss on a gearbox, you can't have a parking position, a P, like in a normal in a more normal automatic transmission, for example, where you put the car in P, or on a normal car you leave the car in gear, so you're just rely the whole time on a handbrake. So there's just a handbrake there. So this is just a short pro and cons from my side.
Okay, Graeme, you want to throw comments in with that one?
Yeah, look, I mean, this is my point of view. I think when you use a gearbox, means you can use a smaller motor, smaller battery pack, yada, 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 because your gearbox is really just your torque multiplier. Over a direct drive, if I'm doing a direct drive, I believe I've got to use a much larger motor to be able to get this vehicle to go up like an incline and so on, you know. So larger motor means larger battery, means larger expense, you know. So it all depends on the conversion too. For example, we're talking about the Mini before, you know, the front wheel drive cars just tend to lend themselves to like either Nissan Leaf, or if you can get them, or the Tesla motors, or that sort of stuff. So it becomes an engineering thing. I'll use this particular motor in this application because it suits me, or I'll go without a gearbox because it suits me, or go with a gearbox because it's easier to get it all together and make the thing work. The other problem too is, you know, when you talk about gearbox, clutch or clutchless, you know, and there's so many arguments for either way. So I guess it all comes back down to, and I think like Russell, what you guys do, what Russell and Emma do down there is they sit down and have a nice long chat to their client, and we do too, and you decide, you know, what way do they want to go, give them the options, and they can start to think about it for themselves. Some people put a lot of faith in the regen thing, and it does put power back in, but then do you really care? Sometimes people don't care. They just want to get the maximum power out, so therefore use a gearbox and an overvolted motor, and you've got yourself a bit of a rocket ship. So I personally prefer a gearbox because I like swapping my own cogs, you know. I don't particularly care whether I have a clutch or not. All my cars that I drive are clutchless. So yeah, but again, it really comes back to, as Alex was alluding to, it comes back to the engineering style of the vehicle too. But yeah, a gearbox, it means you can actually get away with a much smaller motor and a much smaller battery pack, and you can get the car to drive reasonably well. Yeah,
I guess it comes down to efficiency. You know, trying to keep these electric motors in their sweet spot. I mean, Tesla has an RPM sweet spot, which not many people know about, but it's that's where their best efficiency is. So, and the Hyper 9s are the same. So, I mean, if you want to do smoke tires and do burnouts, well, gearbox is going to help increase your torque by lowering your gear ratios. So, yeah, so moving on. Do anyone done any, I can do this for a start, automatic transmissions. I did one back in the day, hated it. That's just my personal view, because you have to keep the electric motor running to keep the torque converter pressure up in the gearbox. We are in the throes, in conjunction with Zero EV, doing a single reduction gearbox to bolt up to the standard 9-inch 4-bolt pattern, i.e. Hyper 9 or or the HPV motor systems. Should you use the gearbox? Well, I guess we've answered all that. Pretty much it depends on the vehicle and what the customer wants and what they are going to do with it, I guess.
Could I chip in on this one? I've done 2 with automatic transmissions. I also don't like them, but we were able to make them go reasonably well by using an external oil pump. In both cases, one was a Suzuki Grand Vitara XL7, and the other was an old Hilux Ute. I think it was probably about a early 90s 2-wheel drive Hilux Ute, and the guy had used a 2-speed, can't think what they call the darn thing, an old American 2-speed power glide, sorry. And yeah, they both worked okay. You just had to wait for the little power steering oil pump to build up enough pressure, and once that did that, and off you went. It seemed to work okay.
Yeah. So just move back onto the next one there, Emma. So we'll deep dive into Mark's beautiful Pantina F truck. Simon, what's your thoughts on this baby?
I think this is cool. It reminds me of I bumped into a guy a while back who's in Canada, and he goes by the name of Webb Motorworks, and he's got a similar sort of build in it with some old truck, but he actually makes up like a cast alloy block, and it looks to the untrained eye like an old V8, but actually inside it has a lot of the components for the electric vehicle requirements. So that thing is pretty cool to look at, and he's done a really beautiful job of making all of the electric conversion kit look really tidy and really original for these old trucks. So I definitely go and have a look at him. It's Webb Motorworks, WEBB motorworks.com. And if you can find his Instagram, I think it's the same name. He's got some awesome looking stuff on there. But yeah, it's a little bit of a shame maybe getting rid of that, a turnkey, V8 in a truck like that. But there's plenty of V8 ones around. So yeah, I reckon that's really cool.
Yeah, Alex, any thoughts?
Oh, I would love to do one. And I think I've got already as well a customer. No, I like them. It's. I think it's such a nice cruising car, and you got just the nice space to work in, and to have this open space, and as well with the weight balance, it's pretty nice to include in this car under the bed in the back to implement the batteries. I think you get a really nice weight balance, and I think it's a really nice cruiser car to convert.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you could fit a whole Tesla Model 3 pack in the bed, which is about 1,850 mil. I'm not too sure the length of the bed. If anyone knows, chuck it up here. And if it was mine, I'd definitely be chucking a Tesla drive-in. So Revolt over in the States we're working with at the moment in conjunction with EV West, doing a reduction direct drive Tesla mounting system to go into a rear differential, which would be very cool. So Graeme, you want to chip in on what you would do?
Yeah, I don't know. I hate big trucks, but anyway, I'd probably be looking at some sort of actual truck electric motor, just forget about the transmission, just replace the whole lot and just have direct drive on that one. That'd be me, but it'd be a pretty big motor, and we'd be talking like 360 volts plus. So yeah, that I'd probably be inclined to do that. I think the automatic transmission probably suck up a bit of horsepower, so if you get a big enough motor with a heap of torque, and some of those Chinese truck motors are pulling up 800-900 newton meters of torque. I think that might be a good direct drive motor for it.
Yeah, I guess it just comes down to, is it just going to be a cruiser around town, or is it going to have some highway duties? Yeah, it's one of those things, I guess. Now I'm just looking through a few of the questions, if anything relates to this. No, we'll keep moving on for now, Emma. Great looking truck. It's a beautiful looking truck. Okay, so we've got some Q&As. So there's a guy working on his 144 volt Beetle, lives up in the Middle East. Gets really hot here. Will I need thermal management of the battery? Simon, you want to have a crack at that?
Yeah, it kind of depends on how the vehicle is being used. Some of the batteries can actually handle quite a high temperature as long as they're not put under a lot of stress. Can't imagine a Beetle at 144 volts as being built as a race car. But we've got a vehicle in Australia that I've seen 49 degrees on the ambient temperature. The battery pack, if the battery pack's not being stressed, then the battery pack temperature just sort of fluctuates and follows the ambient temperature outside with a bit of a delay. And some of the cells are quite happy up around, say it's 49 degrees ambient outside, it doesn't get to that in the center of the battery pack unless the vehicle's being actually stressed quite a lot. So it kind of depends on how it's being used. If the vehicle is going to be running very hot for a very long time, and you're going to need to look at some sort of thermal management of the battery pack. Our vehicles are all refrigerated battery pack cooling, so they can work continuously in those temperatures, although it does, we turn off the AC for the driver if we have to keep the vehicle going, because that's what they requested. But yeah, if it kind of depends pretty heavily on how the vehicle's being used. If it's just going to the shops to pick up some stuff and trundling around in town, then I would say no, you don't need to worry about it. Just make sure you specify some battery cells that can handle the higher temperatures, the higher ambient temperatures. Otherwise, if it's going to be some sort of performance vehicle, then yeah, you'll need to think about the thermal management of the battery pack. No
worries, thanks, Simon. Graeme, you want to chip in on your thoughts? And you live up in a warmer spot.
Yeah, look, I don't know, I don't see a lot of that sort of problem, but then usually when we sort of talk to people about battery packs, we sort of keep that C rating in mind. So we try to convince people to build a big enough battery pack that they don't ever stress them and get them hot, and then be mindful where they actually place them in the vehicle. But then, like ours are just conversions, and I don't think they really get flogged to death. I mean, even the transit van we did I think it was about a 48 kilowatt pack in that thing. Basically they never got hot with the battery management system. We actually, the motor got warm, but the battery pack didn't. So we were pretty much all covered as far as the batteries go, So I haven't come across that problem myself in a big way.
No, I agree. I think it's we oversize our battery packs anyway, so they don't get stressed and have a good C rating. So moving on, we've got Neil's interested in the lithium versus solid state battery introduction, performance upsides, and whether lithium will catch up to a point near enough where the additional cost of solid state will be a major consideration. Also, will we get to a point where the dependency on Tesla batteries are reduced and the provider emerges for retrofitting? Who would like to answer that?
I can give it a shot, I guess. I don't pay a whole lot of attention to it, but it seems to me to just be another step in the development of electric vehicle technology. They have small solid state batteries sort of working now. The problem will be turning it into something that's the size of a power source that can power a vehicle. I think that they have issues with vibration and mechanical shock, that kind of stuff. So the challenge will be getting them into a big enough size that can actually power a vehicle. If they do manage to do that, I think it'll be quite a game changer. This is where we'll start seeing the likes of electric flight really taking off. Sorry for the pun. And other interesting things with energy storage. So hopefully it does, because that will be a real game changer. And yeah, it's just something else to look out for. There's a lot of battery technology that people, on my LinkedIn, there's just, oh yeah, another fancy battery technology that's going to save the world, but they never actually develop, or they never come out in any state that I can place a purchase order and buy some. But the solid state stuff is looking pretty promising, I think.
Yeah, okay. Emma, we had Peter Westcott sent a specific question about a Volvo 144. I'm not too sure where that specific question is, but if you can let us know. David Enright, oh hi, I'm wanting to convert a farm UTV side by side. Has anyone done one? Yes, I've done a Polaris, as well as a Skidoo snowmobile. You can run a AC20 motor from HPEV, about 50 horsepower, 70 foot-pound of torque, and 3 Tesla modules to make that baby go a fair way, and you just use the constant velocity transmission and belt, so that's not too bad. Gary Scott, what's the best second-hand salvage battery for a high voltage application? I'll start that one off because we mainly do high voltage. Depends on what you want, performance or just drivability. There's lots of Nissan Leaf batteries around at the moment. They'll give you 100 kilometres, bit more performance. We do a lot of Chevy Volt Gen 2 packs. I can flatten a Gen 2 pack with a 450 horsepower Tesla drive in 10 minutes out in the driveway for a bit of fun. And a couple of tyres gone. Yeah, Alex, you got any other second-hand 360 volt? I guess it means that's what he means by high voltage, 360 volt battery.
No, I would go as well with I would go as well with a Chevy. This is the easiest you can get at the moment on the market. I think in the next probably 2 years there will be way more coming, but at the moment I think that's the market where we get probably some second-hand from America, apart from Tesla, of course.
Yeah, I agree. So Jason Bourne must be a relation. Hyper 9 or Tesla drive for conversion. Graeme, you want to have thoughts on that? I guess it depends on application.
Yeah, exactly right. Just like it's a mechanical thing in my mind, not an electronics thing. It's what fits that car that you're doing best, and how you can use that. And that's really what their choice is. I've had them both apart in pieces, and mechanically or electronically, both motors are brilliant. There's no problem with either of them. The controllers are well built in both cases. So it really comes back to what are you building and how fast do you want to go and how far do you want to go. Actually, I just want to spot something else. Someone put C rating in a question mark after it, and some people don't understand what the C rating is. We're talking about batteries. I think that's probably a good idea if we mention or explain to people what C rating is for those who don't know. Conrad, do you want to?
Yeah, so C rating is continuous rating of what a battery can give. Well, there's different battery manufacturers do different ratings. They do 30-second rating, continuous rating, a 2-minute rating, but it basically, in layman's terms, it's the amount of current or amps a battery can provide at a given time period. I don't know if Simon, you got a better way of pronouncing that?
Yeah, that's kind of it's a little bit complex to explain, but a battery with a higher C rating is going to have the capacity to give you a lot more power real quickly. You can get low C rating cells. A lot of the stuff that we use is quite low, like 1C, but they tend to be very robust, and they'll happily do 1C for a very long life cycle. Whereas you can also get cells that are 100C discharge, so you can get an extraordinary amount of power out of them for a short amount of time, and they tend to only be able to work in one direction. So they might be 100C discharge and 1C charge, and I think some of the drag guys use those in the States.
Yeah, awesome. Good answer there. Nick Cummins, I'm putting in Tesla batteries. Do I need to call them or not? Have some people say yes or no. So, Alex, what's your thoughts on that?
The Tesla batteries?
Yeah. I guess if it's
sorry, I got it. Yeah. Yes, but you know me. I'm personally. I try to. At the moment, I use. Let's put it this way. I use VW batteries. I try to keep the car genuine, and using for most of my VW conversions, I'm using the genuine VW batteries, and I hope pretty soon maybe get as well the MEB batteries, which have as well pretty good performance. That's the reason I'm staying a bit out of Tesla. So sorry.
No, fair enough, Alex. Yeah, basically, if you're not going to do any fast charging with the Tesla cells on a Hyper 9, they should run fine. They give out 750 amps, make it work. How hot do battery pack and motors run? Motors can run up to 150 C, but the controllers don't like to go over 80 to 90. And battery packs, I wouldn't want to run them more than 50 C. Mark Buckingham is asking, is anyone any thoughts on Damien Maguire's use of the Lexus gearboxes, 200 kilowatts? Simon, have you been seeing any
I've seen some of his stuff. He's really interesting character. That's quite cool what he's done with those gearboxes. I worry it's a little bit complex, and also I can't imagine that they're light. But if you're doing some vehicle that has a nice big transmission tunnel, and that could sort of bolt in, and also Damien's done it and proven it and it works, then I don't see why not.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Just on the side note with these conversion styles, so in our industry, we look at sort of lower voltage DIY motors. There's the Hyper 9, less than 150 volts operating, or the Tesla style, or the Lexus, or believes, the 360 volt. We personally at EV Alliance wouldn't recommend anyone considering doing a DIY 360 volt system until they've done some formal training with high voltage, because you don't walk away from it. If you do something wrong, it'll put you in the grave. So moving on, I've got one here for Graeme. My Tesla Model S modules have some grease compound on the terminals. Does anyone know what this is? Graeme?
No idea. Someone's put it on there, I guess. I don't do much with Tesla modules. I'm doing a set for a drag car at the moment, but no, there's no grease on those terminals. So I would imagine it'd be some sort of compound to help the conductivity, I guess.
Yeah, it'll probably be some form of dielectric grease to just stop the environment getting into the terminal connection, really. So keep the moisture out. Yeah, it's pretty common to see that on various things. We assemble our battery packs with that grease on various connections. It just stops the oxidization of any of the connection and the copper.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Ray Ellison, I ask about refreshing battery technology for the Nissan Leaf. I think that would be one for Russ at Evolution, but he's not on tonight, so we might have to come back to that next month. Andrew Sloan, my question related again to the XJ6 Series 2 curb weight. Right, how would this compare with electric motor and batteries in terms of weight? So basically, most EV shops, including myself, we corner weigh the vehicle prior to any removal of parts, and we try to replicate that weight within 10 to 15% to get us through engineering. So that basically means pick your motor and then pick as much battery as you can to get your range or drive that said motor. Right, I think, what else we got there? Anyone else want to chip in on that? Graeme, you wanted to say anything about the XJ6 with curb weights distribution? What do you do up there? You corner weigh your vehicles?
Pretty much, yeah. And we try to, again, split the pack to even out the weight. We try to keep the battery pack as low as possible. It's really all pretty much common sense stuff. You don't want to be driving around without the same amount of downward force on your front wheels, loose steering and all that sort of thing. And by the same token, you don't want to have it dragging as a bummer on the ground at the back either. So, you try to keep it as well balanced. Yeah, there's not much else to say about that.
Yeah, so Andrew's second question was, regen braking's possible with all the AC motors, no matter what the system is. So we missed any questions here. I think Emma was, read a F100 conversion ballpark budget excluding battery and range. Would you need to complete EV version using? You got a ballpark budget there for a direct drive on the F100, Graeme?
No. I have to sit down. It'd take me hours to work that out. I still have to decide which motor I want to bring in for it. Yeah, I could probably give them a couple of hours. I could work out a budget, but not right now.
Yeah.
For a rough idea, I always say look at the cost of the motor, the batteries, and engineering, and it's good enough. And if it's too much for you, then stop there.
Yeah, I think that I'd be looking like 35 plus.
Yeah, it's people sort of have this.
At least consider. At least considering it's a pretty heavy vehicle, so you need to compensate quite a lot of weight and run as well a more powerful motor to run as well with bigger batteries. So I'm more up at 40 probably, but it still depends on the customer in what kind. How much mileage he wants to get out and how far he wants to go. I think that's more quite often what I see. It's more the problem to get an agreement on how much mileage you want, how often you want to use it. Is it all right just to charge the car overnight, or you want to use it? Want to charge it a bit faster? So there are quite a few extra things going in as well. What we do with this as well factor in some of the older cars, because we add more weight, so we have to implement power steering. So I implement quite often now electric power steering, but it's already as well a factor of extra money. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess all these things, Alex, add up in the end. And the biggest problem of doing classic vehicles is they're not that aerodynamic. So when, I'm sure we've all had the inquiries, they want 400 kilometres range. Well, you know, even a Model S on a good day, feathering it, following a truck doesn't do 400k out in the open road sitting at 100 kilometres an hour. So there's no way we're going to be able to make a classic car get anywhere near that. So I guess it's, you know, it's just that theme that people seem to want. So moving on, we will be releasing our online training hire vehicle course. You can pre-order. Everyone listening will get the link, and hope you guys enjoy. Anything else anyone want to mention from our panelists?
Can I just ask that everybody that comes on to this webcast, that you consider sharing on Facebook when the next one's on. The more people we can get to listen in, the more information we can disseminate, and the more interest we can raise in conversions and EVs in general. So if you can just be mindful to share on Facebook or Instagram and get the word out there about the EV Alliance and about these Zoom meetings. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just quickly say we're going to have some open workshops coming up very shortly during the year. So I think we're all lining up a board that people can come and see, and for a small fee to see what we're doing and see if they would be interested in doing something similar. Thanks everyone for participating. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for our panelists. And like Graeme said, the more we can share around what we're doing, and the better it will be for everyone. Thank you.